Hello and welcome to Donkey Chats. We're so excited you're here. Thanks for joining us today. I know it's been a while, but we are so excited to talk about some Poitou donkeys today. You might have seen a couple running around in the intro. They're real cute. I'm Brittany Sweeney, with the marketing manager here at the Livestock Conservancy, and with me today I have the amazing Charlene Couch, our resident equine enthusiast extraordinaire, and the amazing Natasha Sprengers-Levine from Blue Wood Farm. Thanks for joining us today. We're so excited you're here.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited about everything because we haven't done a chat in a couple weeks, and I'm like, we're going to talk about the cutest, most amazing donkeys ever. So it's going to be so fun.
That intro is pretty adorable.
The intro is adorable.
I mean, there are a few things cuter in the world than baby Poitou. So.
It's true. So I'm Charlene Couch, and we'll get started in just a few minutes, but I wanted to give you a quick intro that there are 3 rare donkey breeds on the Livestock Conservancy's conservation priority list. The Poitou is one of them, and the Poitou donkey is critically endangered. There are some pretty big international efforts to save the breed, and stay tuned, and we'll talk to Natasha and hear more about the donkeys.
Absolutely. And before we get started, we're just going to run a 1-minute quick video from our sponsors, ManaPro. Thank you to them for sponsoring Donkey Chats today. We appreciate you so much. And here we go. Stick around.
Champions, colleagues,
roommates,
and personal trainers.
Whatever role they play,
they're an important part of our lives.
In their quiet way,
and their not so quiet way.
they keep us young.
On our feet,
on the go.
They pull us back to nature.
And push us toward the next adventure.
And as much as we count on them,
they count on us all the more.
To nurture their lives.
With the same commitment.
To protecting them.
Helping them grow.
And thrive.
Treating them.
As well as they treat us. By giving them a little more of our lives. Because no matter what role they play, out here
or in here,
we're here to make their lives the best they can be.
ManaPro, nurturing life.
All right, welcome back, and thank you again to ManaPro for featuring heritage breeds in their amazing commercial, and thank you to them for sponsoring this chat today. We appreciate you.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, let's take it.
Let's do it.
We're welcoming today Natasha Sprengers-Levine. She works at Blue Wood Farm and lives at Blue Wood Farm, and that's in the Hudson Valley in New York.
Yep, we're in technically in Verbank, New York, which is the south side of Millbrook. So it's in the beautiful Hudson Valley. We're about an hour and a half north of Manhattan.
Okay. All right. Well, Natasha is the self-professed or confessed operating officer, farm manager, barn manager, chief donkey wrangler at Blue Wood. Do you want to give us some background about yourself and the farm?
Sure. So I am a lifelong rider. And in 2011, my godparents purchased some land in Verbank that then became Blue Wood Farm and Vineyard. So actually very, very shortly thereafter, we acquired our first 2 Poitou donkeys, which I'll get into a little bit more later. But I have spent a lot of time sort of developing sport horse skills and working with sport horses, and then have recently moved back to New York within the past couple of years. And so have been, have taken over managing the donkeys and all of the aspects of our family's farm.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you're a farm and a vineyard, is that right?
We have grapes. I wouldn't go as far as to say that we do anything with the grapes, but they're lovely to look at. The idea is that someday maybe we'll make some wine with the grapes, but for now it's a little bit of an underdeveloped part of the farm.
Gotcha. Well, how about give us some background on the breed and how Blue Wood came to be involved and what you
Yeah.
do with the donkeys.
So basically, my godfather does not sleep a lot at night. And sometimes he spends time on the internet looking up things that, none of the rest of us are very interested in. And one day he decided that we were going to get some goats. And then one day he decided that we needed to protect those goats from predators. And he found out that donkeys are amazing at herd protection. But being himself, he did not want to have what everybody else had. And he discovered that there was a rare breed of donkey that he could potentially own. And while he was sort of doing all of that research, he figured out that they are critically endangered. And he sort of felt that was a really compelling reason to have them and acquire them. So I went to the University of Vermont, and during I think it was my sophomore year, maybe freshman year, can't remember now. I got a call from him one day and he said, I need you to drive to Southern Vermont and meet someone named Debbie Hamilton who breeds rare donkeys. And I need you to meet these 2 donkeys, and I think we're going to own them.
Yes, sir.
So I did that. Took a little Saturday morning road trip with my roommate, and we went and we met these beautiful donkeys and toured Debbie Hamilton's amazing farm, Hamilton Rare Breeds, where she also bred, I want to say like Choctaw Mustangs and some other really, really interesting horses and donkeys. And yeah, that's how we got our first 2, who were both geldings, Pinot and Otis. And then a few years later, my godfather sort of decided, okay, I really want to do this. I really want to help the breed. And to do that, we can't have geldings. They're not going to be that useful. We love them, but maybe some reproductively viable animals would be good. So we acquired 2 young Jennies from England, actually. So those are our girls, Cece and Carmen. And they came over when they were, I want to say, 1.5 years old. Which was a really, really cool process and really cool thing. We actually have family over in England. So they went over and spent some time with Cece and Carmen and sort of, made sure that they were as sweet as their breeder had said. And then we bred one. So we have Willow as well, who is Carmen's daughter. And she was born in 2018.
So without Jax on your farm, how did you produce the baby?
Well, we have an incredible team of veterinarians at Millbrook Equine. And they have a board certified repro specialist, Dr. Alana King, who is phenomenal and an absolute wizard. And she and Dr. Goslin there were really in charge of creating Willow. We did actually try to breed both of the girls at once, but Cece aborted pretty early on in the pregnancy, which was unfortunate because she's really a sweet girl. And we've kind of actually in the past year maybe figured out why that happened, which is cool. It's like totally unrelated. We didn't really dig into it that much at the time. And then there was some other drama with Willow's arrival. So we sort of took a big step back from creating donkeys. This year, as we were dealing with some other stuff, we realized maybe why that had happened to Cece. But we are very fortunate that there was a big Poitou breeding farm in Millbrook that shut down their breeding operations. And so they sold one of their jacks to a family friend of ours. And so we used that jack.
Perfect.
And it was all done through AI. So, he was collected and then that fresh semen was put into the girls. Yeah. It was a bit of a process. I think we almost got fired by our vet practice because donkeys are not great at leading and handling, and especially with people they don't know. So it wasn't a bright shining light for us for a little while. But we've fought our way back.
Well, you have Willow to show for it, and I'm sure
We
she's
have
trying
Willow
to
to
dance
show
all
for it. Yeah. And her arrival was anything but straightforward. Carmen being a maiden, I don't know if you say it the same way. Do you say maiden Jenny?
I
would
think
say
so.
maiden mare, right? Rejected the foal and actually tried to kill her upon arrival.
No.
So they had to be separated immediately. There was, milk replacer formula and bottle feeding, and it was pretty traumatic, especially for our veterinarian and everybody who was there when it was happening. Our vet still to this day is like, I've never seen anything like that in my life. Like, please don't do that again. If you're going to do it again, we need plans A through Z in place, So we had that for this year.
Right. Well, good.
Yeah.
So was Willow ever accepted by her mom, or did you bottle feed all her foalhood?
She was bottle fed throughout. And we had a pony that lived at the farm. And so the pony kind of lived with Willow as like a sort of surrogate, but she didn't produce milk or anything. So she was bottle fed throughout. And then she lived in the barn kind of with the horses for a long time. And when she was a year and a few months old, she went to go live out with the other donkeys.
Great.
Yeah. And now, like, I'm not sure if Carmen and Willow know that they're related,
Right.
but they're buddy. They're very, they treat one another like they're all in the same herd.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yep.
Well, I want to dive in and ask you all these crazy reproduction details.
Well, I don't know. We might have to get Dr. King and Dr. Goslin on here for real good answers, but
well, we should definitely get together with them. I'd love to hear some of the info that they collected, and there are breeders in the United States who are struggling along as well, and I think the new network of breeders that's developing right now is going to be really powerful for conserving this breed.
Yeah, I think so too. And I know that I've chatted a little bit with Miranda and Alana about, kind of getting involved with this. And I think that's something maybe during the like fall, winter that we can rope them into. And I'm sure they'd love to share their experience.
Oh, that'd be wonderful.
Yeah.
So did you guys freeze any semen down, or did you simply use it fresh?
We used it fresh. And then actually this year we tried to breed the girls again. Danny is the jack that we've used. And we tried to breed back to him this year. Danny had a little bit of a loading problem on the day that we were going to collect him and do the deed. So what we ended up doing was using his frozen semen that they had collected maybe a month prior.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, it didn't freeze very well. And so neither of our girls got pregnant this year. And we had waited a little bit into breeding season, and, we just sort of ran out of time this year, which was really unfortunate.
Yeah.
But, I think next year there are going to be a couple more options. I've been using that network of breeders. So I've had a couple of conversations with people who have jacks who will be more, I guess, viable is the word, next year. It sounds like all of the boys who are on the market right now are pretty young. So we've got to wait a little bit.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're also toying with the idea of acquiring a jack. Because the girls came from England, we have a pretty good shot of nobody here being related to them. So that could work out pretty well for us. But, there are a lot of moving parts.
I know. Yeah, you're right. This is not simple.
No. And like one thing, I sort of started off talking about how I have all this sport horse like background and knowledge, like holy moly, donkeys are not horses. They're really, really not. And there are some things that I've definitely carried over from the way that, we take care of our horses that we try to apply to the donkeys that work. And then there are a lot of things that just sort of, you're like, well, I got nothing for that,
Well, would you talk, please? I think we had discussed it a tiny bit, a few months ago, but the nutritional needs as you see them there in New York for your donkeys.
So our donkeys are really, really fortunate. And I know that this isn't the case everywhere, but our donkeys have a massive amount of pasture. They are on beautiful grass 24/7. In the winter, we put them on a big old round bale, and everybody gets the botulism vaccine, which is incredibly important. If you are going to round bale your horses or donkeys, botulism vaccine, because that is deadly. And what we have struggled with our donkeys, especially kind of as they get older, actually, is keeping their feet happy. So we've toyed around a lot with nutrition and figuring out what minerals they're maybe missing. They're also on a free choice mineral block all the time. But what I've started doing is supplementing that with equine grain, essentially. So they actually eat a ration balancer from Enviro Equine and Pet that has, fortified minerals and vitamins and all that jazz. And they also get a hoof supplement that has made a tremendous difference for them. And I'm not a huge supplements are the way forward, but we have struggled so much, especially last year. We had a really, really wet summer. And I know I spoke with Patrick from Texas a little bit about, they were suffering with some white line disease. We didn't have that. We had just horrific abscesses. I mean, it was like every 2 weeks, somebody else was, crippled, lame. So we've managed that a lot through the nutrition and also through just a little bit more proactive hoof care, which took a little training and patience. They don't love having their feet picked up. So it was, it's just routine building with them. But the ration balancer has made a really big difference. The hoof supplement has made a really big difference. And the other thing that we did was started to test everybody for metabolic disorders. And so we found out that 2 of our 4 do have metabolic issues. So they're on Percend to help regulate that.
Okay.
And that has also helped a lot with their feet.
Yeah, I'm sure.
We're really, I'm really fortunate that all of the veterinarians at Millbrook Equine are super helpful and super game to explore. Like when something comes up with the donkeys, we talk about it and they go, well, I don't know. We don't know many other of these donkeys. So let's talk to some people, and everybody just kind of pools their brain resources and we try stuff.
Yeah, that's excellent.
Yeah.
I've always been curious how much those hoof challenges. I mean, we have them in horses too, of course, but how much the donkey hoof challenges are different in different geographic locations where it's or wetter or the soil.
Something else I recently learned, actually kind of through the horses, we started hosting dressage schooling shows at our farm. And someone came who happens to be French and immediately recognized the donkeys and was so excited to see them. And she was like, you know that they live on sand in France, right? That it's like soft and sandy. And I was like, really? It just never occurred to me that could be another factor. So that's actually something that we're thinking of doing maybe next spring, is actually putting a bunch of sand into the space around their main shed in their main pasture to see if that helps them a little bit through the summer. Because it does seem to be worse in the summer months.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So,
donkeys dry terrains and living on not much. So
yeah. But anything, we just try to kind of support them as best we can. They're pretty independent. So it's not really like they want to be fussed with all the time. They want to hang out, but they don't really want us to scrub them and groom them and, touch their feet and yada, yada. They're not into that.
Yeah, I guess it's all a matter of figuring out how their minds work. We're having a trainer, a specific donkey specific trainer on next week, and so it would be curious to connect you to and see if he has any donkey mindset
that would be
ninja tips that you could use for teaching.
Yeah, that would be awesome. They pick their people and they know when something's up. They're very funny. They're just not lacking for personality at all.
No. Yeah, they're wonderful.
Yeah, they're really, really cool animals. I'm really grateful that we get to spend time with them and, have 4 of them. I hope that we have more again.
Yeah. Me too. Well, we were thrilled to learn about your donkeys. I think they were, Jeanette became aware of them during the census.
Yeah.
That happened, and it was this wonderful hidden treasure. Yeah,
we kind of put them under wraps. I mean, not really, because they're very visible from the road, but we didn't do a lot of public facing talking about them or anything. We really I guess we were a bit selfish. We were just enjoying them ourselves.
Yeah.
The word is out.
It's really cool now, especially because, we're having a little more traffic at the farm between the horse training business and the dressage shows, like being able to answer questions about them. And it's a lot more interaction for the breed that I think is a really good thing. We touched on this a little bit before, but just sort of like educating people is the best option for, getting them back to where they were.
Right. That's right. Yeah, well, your donkeys are doing good promotion for themselves out by the road, right?
They're pretty photogenic. It's actually kind of cool. There are a lot of like regional photography Facebook groups, like Hudson Valley photos, yada, yada, yada. And I would say like at least once a month, I scroll through and I'm like, oh, there's Willow. Like, oh, there's Cece, and they're just sort of like making a funny face over the fence that someone has snapped with their camera.
Yeah.
Natasha, do you have any challenges with them being so personable and photogenic?
Yeah, it is a thing that we struggle with because our farm is accessible from the road. Like there's no double fence line. There's just the fence and the donkeys. We do have a lot of people trespassing, and actually through sort of interactions with strangers, I find out that they're getting a lot of treats and food that they shouldn't have, which, it comes from a good place, but it's really dangerous. They're like horses in their digestive system. So it's a one-way street in there. If something bad gets in, it's not really going to move through very smoothly. So yeah, it is a little bit of an issue that they are so cute and that they're interesting, right? People stop and they look at them, and I can kind of watch from the barn at the top of the property, like cars slow down and then they get out and then they're on the fence line and they're petting the donkeys, even though there's signage that says, hey, don't do that. I just worry more about people's safety. Like they're not predictable, right? Animals aren't. And you never know what they're going to think is a carrot. Could be a finger. Like the very first day that we got Pinot and Otis, our original 2, Pinot bit my finger, and I've been feeding horses for how many years, like it's different. So, and it wasn't that he's a jerk or rude or anything. It was just a wrong place misinterpretation of a moment.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a little bit of an issue that we struggle with. But again, I think just like back to educating people, don't feed strange animals. Don't touch animals that aren't yours. Like enjoy them from a distance.
Right.
We're pretty friendly over email. So if you email us, like chances are I'm going to answer any questions. they have about the breed. And, if you catch me on a good day, like I'll give you a tour of the farm and do a formal introduction, and tell you a little bit more about them and stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to balance. It's a hard, a hard
It
line.
is. And, part of me is like, okay, do I get signs with a big QR code that's like, scan here to read more about the breed, but I don't want to cause more traffic jams.
Yeah.
So I think just taking the quiet education tack is probably my best bet.
Yeah. Yeah. Good plan.
And remembering too that people really have good intentions and they just are curious and excited because these donkeys are amazing.
They are.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are.
I'm trying to think.
Are there any questions, Brittany, coming in?
Yeah, we've got a couple.
Woo.
Hi, Travis. Thanks for joining us today. We're glad you're here. Travis says, if you are breeding equines, you must be very resilient. Count every live foal as a gift. Equine semen does not freeze well, and pregnancies from frozen semen is much lower than other species. So good luck with your endeavors.
Thank you. Yeah, that's pretty much the same sentiment that that our wonderful vets have expressed as well. And I guess there's something about and again, we have to get them on for this. There's something about the internal anatomy of the jennies that's a little more complex than horses as well. And that was a factor that I had never really thought about. So, yeah.
Yeah.
There are lots of things working against them, but I think, there's a lot of good collaboration and science happening that can hopefully start to grow the breed a little more rapidly.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think that there are a lot of folks out there who are really interested in, understanding donkeys in general, but the breed in particular. How does reproduction work differently than for equines? How does semen freeze differently, perhaps?
Yeah.
Yeah. Lots of good stuff going on.
Yeah. And I wonder too, like if there's a nutritional component, if there's whatever factors can come into play, like what we can do in just the everyday management of them to step that up a little bit.
Right. Yeah. We do that for horses, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's all a learning curve. I think this year was an unfortunately expensive learning curve for us, but
yeah.
Better luck next year. Like the girls, Cece and Carmen are 10, so they'll still be great to go next year and probably for a good bit after that. And Willow will be 5 next year, so we'll probably wait until she's 7 or so. But it's in the pipeline.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Yeah. Great. Thank you for that reminder, Travis.
Yeah.
Let's see. A Facebook user would like to know how many Poitous are there in the U.S.?
You guys are in charge of the census. You probably know.
That's right. We're still having the occasional donkey come out of the woodwork, but from a census that was begun in, I think, either late 2019 or in 2020. So far, we've identified about 130 donkeys that are either purebred Poitous or part-bred Poitous. And a lot of those animals, Natasha, you mentioned earlier Debbie Hamilton's name. And, as herds become dispersed, as hers was, sometimes records are lost and sometimes pedigrees are lost and you don't always know what you've got. So we are really working hard with the breeders to try and reconstruct some of that history and the pedigrees and also to pull in DNA as a tool for, being able to figure out, well, is it a Poitou at all? Or is it a shaggy donkey? Because there are those out there. Yeah. But to the Facebook user, we think there are around 120 to 130. Stand by for more info because a hair sample just came in 2 weeks ago. So
that's
people
awesome.
People are still learning about the census. And, if anybody's listening who wants to be a part of that, please, it's never too late to get in touch and, work with us to get the census more complete so that the breed can be saved.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you for that reminder. If anybody is looking for information about that, you can go to livestockconservancy.org and to the Poitou page under our conservation priority list, and you can find out how to participate. And thank you to everyone who has already participated. That's been so helpful.
Yeah.
It's also really interesting what you guys have been working on with the French registry and getting a registry set up here. I mean, that's incredible. Like, our Willow is not registered and not able to be registered with the French, even though both of her parents are Book A Poitous, which is sort of heartbreaking, like we played by the book.
Yeah, literally, right? Literally by the book.
We did it right. And she's just sort of a thing.
Not for long, Natasha, we hope.
Not for long, no.
Yeah, we are in the process with the encouragement of the French Poitou Association, beginning to, well, we're more than beginning. We've almost got a registry up and running for the Poitou donkey breed. For the animals here in the Americas. The French really want to conserve this breed, and it's a global breed, and we all have to work together. So I am really thrilled that this is happening. It's something that has, it's been a struggle for not just you and Willow, but
no, only our problem, nobody else.
That's right. But historically, it requires a team of inspectors from France to come to the United States and evaluate the donkeys and determine if they are of good quality for breeding. And we're losing track of donkeys that way. And so everything is in the works for being able to move forward and work more closely with the French to validate which donkeys are which here, and to hopefully begin to have some reciprocity with registrations and with exchange of semen and embryos and animals. So it may be a little ways off, but keep your fingers crossed. We're working very hard on that part.
It's really exciting.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's not an easy boat to move forward. So
yeah. Well,
absolutely. Oh, I've got a comment here from, hi, Yvette. Thanks for joining us. We're so excited you're here. Yvette says, I had the honor to spend the weekend in France last June with Charlene and Jeanette, just to tell you that here they do not just live on sandy grounds. It's also clay and other kinds of soil.
Awesome.
Okay, good.
Well, that's good to know. I think we might still try this sand experiment. We have a bunch of sand that we pulled out of our old riding arena. So it's just been sitting, and I'm like, well, we could experiment. It goes back. But maybe mix with our soil. I wonder if the clay is a little bit softer too. Like, we don't have much clay in our soil here in New York.
Okay.
We can send you some. We're like exclusively clay here.
Really nice red clay. I would like that.
You got it.
I lived in Virginia for a few years, and so I got really used to the red clay. And now I'm like, oh, the dirt's brown.
What are you talking about?
Yvette, thank you for joining in today from France. You were a wonderful, wonderful friend to us while we were visiting Poitou donkey farms and talking to members of the association and officials from the French Association. Yvette also has raised donkeys, and she made a big hit at the most recent, I think it was a show is what you would say, with her donkey. That donkey walked away with all the prizes, apparently. So
that's awesome. Congratulations.
But these are wonderful, wonderful relationships to cultivate, because knowing that they don't just live on sandy soils, knowing that nutritional needs and hoof care needs may vary. The more that we can share and learn together, I think the better chance the breed has.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's also important to realize that, like, they are still individuals, And so even within our 4, what works for one doesn't really work for another. And so, you know, at times we have to kind of take a step back and, you know, act accordingly. You know, and sometimes you have to try some really weird stuff. Like Cece wore shoes for 3 shoeing cycles last year because she had such a bad crater in her foot from an abscess. You know, their hoof wall is so thick and the structure is so different to horses that abscesses don't quite move through the hoof in the same way. So all the things that you do, like really aggressive soaking, packing, wrapping, it just doesn't work on the same timeline for them. So yeah, I mean, sometimes donkeys wear shoes and funny bell boots, and that's the way that it goes. You know, we're really fortunate that we're in a position again to have an amazing farrier, an amazing vet, team of vets who like will collaborate and work together and think outside the box a little bit. And we also are into trying new things and putting their health and well-being first. You know, is not always inexpensive.
Yes.
But you know, like she wore shoes for 3 cycles. It was the same shoes that got reset each time. She doesn't wear them down a ton. She's not walking on gravel or anything. And now she doesn't wear them anymore, and her feet have been great this year. I think she's had some process. So
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Let's see. I think we've got one more comment here. Hi, Sherry. Thanks for joining us today. We're glad you're here. Sherry says, Boscheman, Preservation Farm in Waldoboro recently got a jack. I think the first Poitou in Maine. That's exciting.
That's really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I know that the Zoo of New England has one, and they also have like a collection facility. I guess that they collect like rhinos or something that is like astronomically larger than a donkey. But when I was in talks with them, they said that they had everything to like do and process a collection. So maybe this little jack in Maine wants to take a road trip down there too.
Thank you, Sherry. We'll follow up with those folks.
That's very cool. More and more in New England. Love it.
All right. Well, what are your? I mean, we talked about a little bit about your breeding goals for next year, but you know, in sort of a higher level plan, what do you think you'll be doing with the donkeys?
Well, we're certainly going to keep enjoying them. I refer to them as my godfather's emotional support donkeys. Sometimes he works in restaurants and owns restaurants, which is pretty stressful. So he comes and he hangs out with his donkeys, and they make him really, really happy. And they're really good at that job.
They are.
It's an important one. And I think, you know, long term, we do want to get into more breeding. We are pretty attached to our Sweet Willow, so she's not going anywhere anytime soon. But maybe one day we would breed enough and be able to detach ourselves a little bit and maybe sell a couple. And again, just keep going with the education. If we can build a little bit of a platform to keep telling people about the donkeys and how to keep them going and happy and healthy, I think that's great. Yeah. But we didn't really get into it with that sort of plan. So these things are evolving as time goes on.
Yeah, of course. That sounds like a great plan, though. Yeah, promotion for all the endangered breeds is really important. And, you know, just helping people understand that they're even out there, that these donkeys exist in the U.S. and, you know, they've got a role to play in conservation.
Yep. And they're so fun and they're so friendly and they're an absolute riot. Like, they are hilarious to watch.
They are. Brittany and I have spent some time on a Poitou farm, and some of the best fun I've ever had in my life.
Yeah.
With those donkeys.
They crack me up with how they interact with one another. Because again, it's not the herd dynamics of a herd of horses. You know, like their body language is so different. and they take no prisoners. They're pretty rough with one another sometimes.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right. It looks like we had maybe a couple more questions, Brittany.
We do.
Oh dear.
Let's see. Yvette says, what age do the two have who are on Presend?
Yeah. So Otis is 18 and he's on a half pill of Presend every day. Cece is 10 and she's on a full Presend every day. She is our, to put it lightly, sort of dumpling shaped donkey. So she's a little bit of that like body type that you suspect is metabolic. If you saw it in a pony, you'd be like, oh, that's a metabolic pony. But I think because their hair is so shaggy, you don't immediately go to that with a donkey. We tested her for Cushing's when she was going through some of the abscess stuff last summer, just to see if that was a factor. And, it turned out that her levels were incredibly high. So right now she's managed with a pill a day. It seems to be keeping her really happy and healthy. But it's interesting that she developed that at such a young age. And that actually is the reason we think she might have aborted those years ago when Carmen got pregnant with Willow.
Right. Yeah.
So it just was something, we had no reason at that stage to test them. Except maybe that Cece was like a little chunkier than Carmen, but still like that just is kind of the shape of her body. Like she's just a little ploppy girl. So yeah, it's definitely interesting. And I think it's something that like maybe next year we'll test Willow. We're kind of pulling blood on all of them annually now to see if we can get ahead of stuff like that.
Yeah. Do you think that's a breed thing, or is it more like when we manage horses, we try and cut sugar?
Yeah. I don't know. And I think that's a little bit what we're internally experimenting with.
Okay.
Certainly they don't get a ton, they don't eat like super processed sugary feeds or anything. Like they're getting a ration balancer, hay and grass. So yeah, I'm really, really not sure. When Otis popped up with it, it seemed a little more consistent. Like he's older, right? But like I have a 24-year-old horse whose blood panels are perfectly normal and he doesn't need to be managed with Presend. And, I know a lot of other older horses who are the same way. We also have a dumpy looking, big bodied halflinger who's like, I don't need that. And again, like his brain, your brain sort of goes to, well, his body type is such that I would think he was metabolic. So anyway, yeah, to be determined. I guess I'd like to find out from other people if they have them on Presend or if that blood work has come back in a certain way.
Yeah, that'd be really interesting.
Yeah.
All right, I think. Did Yvette have another question, Brittany? Sorry, I tuned in so that I could watch the questions too.
That's okay. I think it was the last comment was just from Sherry asking us to follow up. Her understanding is that the man got him from is selling his whole herd. So if you know anybody looking for more Poitous, they'd love to, but they only have 5 acres.
Yeah.
I think we would all take one home. But
we'll share the word. We'll share the word and see what's going on there. I appreciate that heads up. It's wonderful.
Yes, thanks for keeping us in the loop.
Yeah. All right. Well, anything, Natasha, that we didn't ask you yet that you'd really like to say about the donkeys?
I don't think so.
Or Blue Wood, or
I don't think so. Thank you guys for having me. I hope I shed some light. I mean, like I said, we've learned mostly through making some mistakes, and I'm really glad that we're not on an island anymore, that, through you guys, that we've actually found some really helpful resources. So thanks.
Good. I'm glad. Well,
Yeah, and I think I owe you some helpful articles that I have not.
yeah, that's all right.
Maybe this is in advance.
Take your time, but yeah, we would love to, to have an article or two and be able to share that out among the other breeders, and also among folks who may have the infrastructure and the interest in one-day breeding.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll try to rope my vets into providing some actual helpful insights.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Well, I think it's maybe. If anybody has, questions or anything for me, like feel free to email me. It's just Natasha@bluewoodfarm.com, or, visit the website, or find us on Facebook or Instagram or whatever. And if you're in the area, let us know.
Absolutely. And Facebook and Instagram is @Blue Wood Farm. Natasha's website is bluewoodfarm.com. So please go there. Please check out. There's lots of pictures of the beautiful donkeys.
Yeah, we have some really nice glamour shots. Thank you, Erin Gilmore.
They're gorgeous.
She and I had such a good time when she came for a photo shoot. I've got to get her back up here.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Natasha, is there anything else you want to plug before we jump into our shameless plug section?
Yeah, no, go ahead. Shameless plug. I really appreciate the work that you guys do. So keep it up, and I hope people can donate or something to help out.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Natasha, for joining us. Thank you, Charlene, for helping put this together. Thank you to ManaPro for sponsoring today's Donkey Chat. We appreciate all of you. Thank you to all of our members and supporters. We couldn't do educational program without you. And thank you to all of the Poitou breeders and everybody that participated in the census.
The census, yeah.
And help us build this network, and everyone who's got such a strong love for these donkeys. They're so important, and we appreciate all of the hard work that y'all do. You're so important to moving this breed forward. We couldn't do it without people, and y'all are all amazing. So now I'm just going to shamelessly tell you if you're not a member, you would like to become one, please go to our website. That's livestockconservancy.org. And you can become a member. Memberships help support small farmers in research and genetic research and census stuff and all the things that make conservation possible. So we appreciate that. You can become a conservation champion. That's $4 a month. I know that I personally spend one on coffee like every day. I'm on my third cup today. It makes the world go round. Anyway, now I've had so much caffeine, I'm just rambling. I hope that you will join us again next week. We are talking to someone about American Mammoth Jack donkeys. Her name is Rachel, and she's amazing. And I think, fingers crossed, she'll be out in the field. So you might actually be able to see donkeys, try to eat the camera.
Cool.
Yes, tune in next week. We do hope to see 2 miniature donkey foals in our video. So there may just be too much cuteness this month for Donkey Month.
Well, thank you guys again so much for having me.
Thank you for being part of this. Thank you, Brittany, and thank you to all the folks who tuned in today. If you do want to know more about the donkeys, you can get in touch with us or with Natasha. And if you hear of any more donkeys lurking around out in the US or Canada, we'd love to hear about it.
Absolutely. Thanks, everyone. Have a great week, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye, everybody.